our Stargate panel today, so I want you to put your hands together for Amanda Tapping and Richard D. Anderson! The high seat, taking the
I want to be able to look at you and you can't tell.
So, first of all, you survived the journey here then, because I mean literally from the green room here. It is raining. It is raining out there, my goodness me. So umbrellas were turning inside out and also. Amanda, you've been really busy. You have been producing. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Oh, golly, I just got back from New York directing an episode of Blind Spot. I directed, prior to that, I directed the 100. Or it's actually, I say it wrong, it's the 100. You're not allowed to say the 100, the 100, which was really fun. Supernatural I directed, and I'm going back to after this, I go on to a show called Motherland, which is new. And I think you guys are really going to dig it. It's super cool. And Anne with an E and F.
I think you're being quite humble here, because this is, when you're saying you've produced a couple of things, this is like your 50th episode, isn't it, that you've been doing?
I just directed my 50th episode of television.
Can we get a round of applause? Absolutely amazing. And Richard, I wanted to ask you actually, because I know that, talking about producing, directing, keeping that in the family, because I think, didn't you do a little trip down to Boston recently to see a little play called Guys? And I thought you might want to say something about it.
Has it gotten around?
Well, we do our research here. We do our research.
Well done, sir. Well done. Yes, my daughter Wiley is going to a college in Boston, and she's in her third year, performing arts, primarily theater, and she's getting a teaching degree. She said, just in case, Dad, just in case. She gets a teaching degree. She's that smart. But she wrote and directed her first play, and it's a one-act play, and I saw it's very layered and full of emotion, and I'm familiar with the story that she wrote about. And it was just phenomenal. It brought me to tears just by the magnitude of what she had undertaken and succeeded. So it's like one of those things as a father where you go, she'll be okay. And off she goes.
That's fantastic. Can we get a round of applause for Wiley as well? I think we should. I'm going to tell her. I think that's one proud dad right there. You know what? We only have about half an hour with you, and one or two people turned up. We should get some questions from the audience going there.
Yes, from the audience.
So, any questions from the audience? There's one down here. We're going to get a mic to you now. Hold on. Oh, hold on.
Hello. My name is Thomas.
We're just
sorry, hello.
I have a question for you. What would you think of an episode in Stargate where they visit very old civilizations on Earth, like the Sumerians?
What would we think if there was an episode of Stargate where we visited the Sumerians? Was that the question?
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, did we? I don't think we did.
What are Sumerians? I'll give you an idea of who to ask.
I think we should do one episode. Do you have thoughts on it? I'd love to hear yours.
I'd like to see it because I'm a big history fan. That plays Civilization 5.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, when the show gets picked up again, we'll put that in the folder. Yeah, when it comes, because they're just remaking every show. Why not us, right? Go through the Stargate with our walkers.
Can we get the mic down the front, actually? There's a couple of people down here that had their hands up straight away, so I just want to make sure we get their...
Hi. Hi. I have spoke to you already today. So I told you I was an astrophysicist, so I'm curious as...
Yeah.
My
Masters in astrophysics here, isn't that awesome?
But I was wondering how much science you actually picked up using all that technobabble in the episodes, or whether or not it is all just absolute gibberish still to you a little bit.
No, I took it really seriously. So I studied it, and then what I did was I broke it down into layman's terms so I could explain it to Alan. Yeah. So I could explain it to my husband, and then I thought if he can understand it, then I've got it. So being mean. But I broke it down into layman's terms, so I fully understood what I was doing, and I understood the technobabble. I was very proud of the fact that I understood it. Could I blow up a sun right now? No.
And there was a dynamic on the show, I don't know if you noticed, where, first of all, they had sense enough to give Michael and Amanda all the dialogue, or the mainstay anyway, and I was relegated to the reactionary, what? And which kind of helped the dynamic along, but there's no way we could do it any other way. I could memorize that dialogue to save my life. And she could. She, thank God you're on that show. Way to go.
Fantastic. Full respect, hashtag women in science, by the way. These people may explode if we don't get a mic to them, and that could be messy. The paperwork. Oh, there's one there first. Okay, go on.
Can I have mine first?
You have yours first.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent.
I have a question for all of the shippers. So, if...
Ship means relationship, so like people who shipped Sam and Jack.
I'm 70, you know. What?
We absolutely still dig it at 70, don't worry. If the Stargate fandom and the shipper fandom in particular could have their canon confirmation moment, like the X-Files did after 20 years, 25 years, what would you like it to be?
So it would
Be as detailed as you like, we don't mind.
So it would be an exterior shot of Jack's cabin as the sun's coming up, and then cut inside and see Jack, and then Sam would roll over, and there she'd be all of a sudden on the same pillow, and then they'd get up and go fishing. See, I've directed it already.
I'm going to quickly ask the next question, which is, Richard, would you like a coffee?
God bless.
No problem.
Anybody?
Now we'll get some answers.
Yeah. What was the question?
What would that scene?
Yeah, mine was given hers. Mine would start the evening before. Groundhog Day.
Oh, fantastic. He's over there. I'm going to come in.
Hi.
These lights are so bright, we can hardly see you there. It's just like a wall of lights, but...
Given the size of the universe, it's also inevitable that it's alien life out there somewhere. And at least somewhere, some of that alien life will be some kind of parasite like the world. In other words, it's likely something like the world exists somewhere billions of light years away. If somehow it got to Earth, how would you react?
If somehow we were to meet this,
If you were to meet an alien life form like the world, how would you react? Would you be like, oh, that's just like Sunrise arm, or would you be too freaked out?
I'd kill them and then dissect them. Just because I have knowledge of what could happen if they took over. Right? I'd kill them first and then see what they were all about. That's what Sam Carter would do. Amanda Tappan would probably run screaming as far away as possible. I'd capture them and study them for science. That's a better answer.
Whoa. Wobbling coffee. Richard, what would you do if you came across an alien parasite that had come to Earth? How would you react to it?
Parasite?
Yeah, some type of parasite. Human parasite, yeah. Parasite.
So old who would take over.
Like a big parasite or tiny one? I'd take an antibiotic. That's all I got.
It's a fair one.
Is that all right?
They're running over there with the mic now. Just see you.
You really MacGyver, the original series. I was wondering if you saw the new series that's come out.
I have.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, you're taping this, right? Oh, you don't tape anymore, do you? I'm 70. I'm not real crazy about it, I'll be honest. They approached me at some point early on. They had done some testing for the show. Found out it wasn't as attractive as they wanted it to be. So then they called and asked if I wanted to have anything to do with it, and I said, yeah. No. and I'm glad because once I saw the product, it really I wasn't offended because it's a business. I don't own the title; they can do whatever they want. But I don't think they've been fair in taking you take the baton these days or the mantle, whatever. You continuing the franchise. They're not being true to the franchise. They're shooting up everybody. There's so much going on. You don't see the thought process that we kind of prided ourselves on being able to institute into our show. MacGyver sees the problem. He sees solutions for the problem. You see him gathering the solutions, putting it together, and then solutioning, solving. Just like that. In this new one, it's, boom, 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 and it's all got four corners. It's just happened so fast, I don't know. I mean, granted, it's a fast-paced show, and, maybe they're trying to latch on to that, the rhythm of it's not even millennials anymore, is it? It's like Z, are they Zs now?
He's 70.
Hey? Oh, my daughter said I think they're the Z generation. Anyway, maybe they're after them and that's attractive to a different group. But the folks that like the original one seem to prefer, and I'm happy to hear that. Not for any, there's no ego involved here, trust me. I could care, but I just, I didn't find that they were being, it's like a cop show with the title, to me.
Okay.
Hello? I've got a question for Amanda.
Right on the end.
Hi there. In the episode when you got stuck in Antarctica, how much fun was it asking Richard and why he didn't just MacGyver you out of the situation?
So there I was, laying on a pack of ice with Amanda Tappan. We're in the middle of the scene, we're shooting, and it's take time. It's not even rehearsal anymore, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the MacGyver moment, yeah? Or it's my sidearm, I swear. Both of which were funny. Yeah, same. Martin Wood directed that episode. I think it was his first Stargate. And he said, whatever you do, have some fun, because it's freezing cold. We refrigerated the studio, and it was really cold in there. And I don't know what possessed me, but there you were, my love, just clambering up the ice with your broken leg and your knife, and super cute. And what was your line? Can you get us out? And then
That
I
was
went
my
off
line?
on you. Yeah, you're MacGyver, McGadget, McGimmick. Now you're Mr. McUseless.
We should ask out here. They know
That's the
that.
line. I know it. I said it. You're MacGyver, McGadget, McGimmick, Mr. McUseless. Oh, you have a belt buckle and a piece of gum. Why not build us a nuclear reactor? Something like that.
You use the word frigging.
Did I?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think
So
we use that
Canadian.
to air. Not frig, but
Friggin'.
what it...
Friggin' MacGyver.
No, what it stands for.
Oh, I didn't actually say that.
You didn't?
No.
That's what I heard.
Anyway, so here's the moment. And then Richard Dean Anderson, in its season 1, and I can still get fired at any moment, staring at me with this look of, what did you just say? And the last words that sort of fell out of my mouth before I could suck them all back in, and it was too late, was Mick Useless. And then he turned and looked at the camera and laughed, and then nothing was really said about it. And then we were standing in the lunch line, and I was like, oh, I've offended him. Uh-oh. My boss. Uh-oh. And I remember going up to Rick in the lunch line and being like, hey, we're okay, right?
You're McFired.
Yeah, but it was super, that whole episode actually, because it was freezing cold in there. It was really fun. The sleeping bag was fun. That was fun.
It was fun. Sidearm.
Sidearm. Swear to God.
Yeah, Magnum 44. What?
I don't know what that means.
It's the largest gun ever. Ever made.
Oh, where's our gentleman with the mic? These guys
Somebody
here.
save us from ourselves.
Hello.
Hey.
Question for Richard. I don't know if you are aware about the GateCon Vancouver conversation with Amanda about the best kissers on the set. And you were pretty top over there.
I was what?
Any thoughts? You were pretty top on the list. Well, top list really, because you
Pretty top of the list? How many of those guys did you kiss?
Thank you.
Jesus. Pretty top
You
of
were
the
top of
list.
the list, all right, buddy? Just relax.
There's a difference between pretty top of the list and top of the list.
Awkward. Top of the list, all right? All right? You and your AK-47 or whatever.
I was 70. Even then. Were you asking me what it was like?
How do you feel about it?
Oh, she's great. It was the rehearsals that I loved. We started rehearsing the evening before and really got it right. Her husband objected. I said, screw off.
What, Evs?
We had fun. We had an excuse, a professional excuse to kiss.
Yeah, because it was our job. And we took it really seriously. Okay?
Hello. Lovely to meet you both earlier on. So some of the humour in some of the episodes was very subtle. Was it all scripted in, or did you?
What?
What happened with Stargate, I think, very quickly was that they realized that, and I think you said it, when you agreed to take on the part, if I recall, you had said, I'm not going to play this jarhead, I want to play somebody with a sense of humor. Right? Sort of. But yeah, there was a lot of ad-lib early on from Rick. The rest of us were too scared to ad-lib, but it's his show, so he could. And that sort of led us.
Will you stop saying that? I don't think I was your boss, and it wasn't my show. I shared
It felt
the
like that in
profits.
season 1. It felt like that in season 1. Like, you know, you're working with Guyver.
Yeah. What was the question?
About the sense a lot of it was that. There was a lot of stuff that happened, and then that sort of, like, Rick really paved the way to make the show I think a lot more accessible because of its sense of humor. Because even in the most dire situation, like, you know, you ended that sentence with a dangling participle, you bastard, things like that, where it was just like, that's an ad-lib, clearly, but that happened a lot.
Well,
the hardest part was keeping a straight face while you were
yeah. Well, there was a nice transformation that took place, or a transition in tone as the years or the episodes went by. To go back even a step further, we used to have the luxury of a table read for every script. And it didn't last very long because it took time, nobody was around, but it kind of fell apart after a conversation that Brad Wright had with me after one of those table reads. I've told you this, haven't I? He took me aside. You all know who Brad is, right? He's your boss, but head writer, and we'd go through these table reads, and it's the first time we're seeing the script. So to me, those are just little seeds for, you know, to go somewhere else. The impulses are all there on a fresh piece. Anyway, God, I can't stop my brain. So during the table reads, I would be ad-libbing on, you know, and this is a fresh script. And Brad took me aside, you know, and most of it was getting laughs, some of it didn't matter. I wasn't reading the words the way they were written. So Brad took me aside and took me into his office, like the principal, and said, you know, you're not doing the writers a great service by doing what you're doing in those rehearsals. Every one of us works hard to write these scripts, and when we first hear them, you guys read them, we like to hear the words. And he basically chastised the hell out of me, which I deserved. And I told him, I said, you're right. And it occurred to me that I should be showing some more respect for writers, who to this day I respect most out of the whole process. So from that point on, we kind of stopped having those rehearsals, but I tried to be a lot more true to the word that on the written page, but with the caveat, and this is the agreement I made signed in blood with Brad, is that we do our rehearsal and then we'll find our moments of levity, and, you know, I'll always call up or, you know, clear it with you. Stop me, I'm talking just on and on.
No, it's really good.
But that was basically the genesis of
Okay, you can stop.
the likeness. But what happened though with all that, the other actors started to do the same thing, and it really made for some terrible episodes. No, it made for a really nice tight group of actors who could kind of race with each other improvisationally, and it was an ideal place to work for me.
Fantastic. Was that man with a roving mind? Oh, there he goes. Where he stops, nobody knows.
Hey guys. Quick question. What was like the most annoying scene to do that just like took forever? What was it?
Most annoying scene. You know, sometimes scenes in the briefing room would take forever. And in the summer, when the studio would get really hot, because it was up high, close to the ceiling of the studio, it would get hot and stuffy, and the lights, and mostly expositional dialogue to get us to the action sequences, those were sometimes really difficult. Hours and hours in the briefing room.
Yeah, I don't remember because, well, let me do a comparison. MacGyver was shot in Vancouver throughout the winter. Our show was done in summer, right? It was
February
spring.
to November.
Yeah, which was a little nicer outside. So any of the exteriors we do on what is it, Stargate, were rather pleasant to be a part of. You're outdoors and frolicking with the deer and getting paid. Anyway, but MacGyver, it was standing in the, like outside here, freezing cold rain, that's Vancouver. In fact, I felt right at home here. And that was so, you know, yeah, it would have been the dialogue, the long dialogue, insanely long scenes that we have to shoot, like 12 people in a circle, which is hard to do anyway. I kid because
Yeah, I think that those were actually the least fun sometimes. Although there were times when once we got the giggles, then we couldn't stop, and then the day went on for like a really long time after the briefing because we all got the giggles.
Yeah.
I was the first to break, and then I'd have tears streaming down my face, and then they'd have to cut, and then I'd redo my makeup. Makeup. Amanda's crying again.
One of my episodes, I had to spend 4 hours in the morning getting 100-year-old makeup put on, and then 2.5 hours to take it off at the end of the day. So that it was worth that unpleasantry just to have it on for a few hours during the day, because being an old guy is really fun. You can get away with murder.
You were a really naughty old guy.
No, I asked. It was no.
Sorry, honey, I'm senile.
It's rehearsing.
But the scenes you think would be hard, like when we're in the water, like, you know, when the water's rising and all those kind of like crazy sequences like that you'd think would be really uncomfortable and hard, were actually really fun to do.
You always want to be able to do that as a kid, right? Be in a situation like that where you're playing and the bad guys are filling up that tank and you're going to drown, but because you're an actor and you're in a controlled set, you know you're not going to drown, but still you can play it like, oh, come on. Who wouldn't want to do that and get paid? Come on.
I remember during the pilot, Michael Shanks and I running beside each other through the woods with our guns and looking at each other and sort of catching each other's eye and like smiling because we were like, oh, we get paid to run through the woods with guns like we were little kids. We were totally little kids. And we landed on the side.
Hi. Hi.
Go this
Way. Hello. Good sailor. Very good. Moving on. So I just wanted to share a very quick thing with Richard, if that's okay. That I'm rather proud of having the nickname of MacGyver, which I got when I was in Rome at a concert. And as you may notice, I wear glasses, and my glasses snapped. Right in the middle of the concert, and I had no other spare glasses. And there were some lovely ladies next to me who were chewing gum. And I said, terribly sorry, could I borrow some of that gum? I promptly put it in my mouth, chewed it very quickly, and then used it to super glue the two ends of my glasses back together again. And then when I got back to the hotel, I sellotaped them back up together again, and I put a picture of it on Facebook, and my friends now call me MacGyver. But my question really is, which is your favourite episode that you've done for Stargate?
Stargate or MacGyver?
Either one.
You are assuming I remember.
I see nothing.
Oh, or no. Oh, well, you know, favorite. Kissing Amanda was really nice. I hate to belabor the point. People are going to talk, you know. I honestly could not answer that. I had fun on every one of them. I got nothing. I'm sorry.
My favorite after the fact was the Heroes 1 and 2, just because I think that it told the story of Stargate from a perspective, from that, you know, the reporter's perspective. It was such an emotionally charged episode, losing Dr. Fraser and for us losing Taro. And I just thought, I thought it was the best of all the elements of Stargate in those two parts. I thought it was pretty phenomenal. And we all sort of cling so tightly to those episodes just because of the emotional temperature at that time. So.
Hello.
Kidding, he's kidding.
You know I'm kidding, right?
Considering that this is a fandom that is about 21-ish years old, and you are getting as many people coming to see you as shows that are brand new on Netflix, which I think this shows that the fandom is well and truly alive. Do you think that there is any chance that we will ever see SG-1 on TV again?
You know, my initial statement will be, God, I hope so. Because there are elements of working with that group that were just so dynamic and so wonderful and comfortable and creative, and we had a freedom with each other that, you know, I haven't seen or experienced in other venues. It's not really up to us. I don't know how the other actors are feeling about it, but I don't sense that Brad has got anything cooking. I'd suggest write letters. I don't know that it's...
I know that there's interest from MGM, for sure, to try to revitalize the franchise in some way, and I know, having talked to Brad, that they've approached him about it. So I don't think it's, you know, it's not black and white, for sure. I think it would be great to revisit it, even if it was, you know, a series of movies, like Movie of the Week type movies, or a limited run miniseries. I don't think that it's out of the question. I think it's more possible now than it was, say, 5 years ago. I think it's actually the idea that has been germinating for a long time, and now MGM has actually seemed to have latched onto that idea. And because there are so many shows that are sort of being rebooted, it's more possible now than it ever was. So, never say never. I think it would be quite fun to revisit it for a period of time.
Would you do it?
Sure. Would you? Well, would you?
Yeah, I'd love
Okay, then I would. I think, you know.
With Michael?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
With Teal?
Yeah.
Do we want to?
It's a bit stinky.
That's not kidding.
Yeah, can we get a mic down to this lady? Can we do that?
He's about to lose it.
You almost don't need it from my ear.
And just
I'm
before...
so sorry, I've losing my mind. I'm going to give the mini spiel that I just gave Christian Hansen earlier, which is that there was an MGM competition for top 10 Stargate fan panelists, super fans, and I was one of those winners, so I got to go to LA and represent Stargate with MGM, which is the most amazing thing I've ever done, and we got to talk about bringing back the show and all that stuff, so MGM's amazing. I really hope that they can actually bring stuff back, because they're working on it with the app and all that, so fantastic. Nicole, hi. I actually have a question for you, Amanda. Specifically, I'm sorry, Rick, I love you, but...
We spoke earlier, right?
I'll leave it for a minute. So with the 100, because Anne was amazing, by the way, I loved your work on that great episode. But with the 100, you worked on season 6, which isn't out yet. did you get to work with JL Bond, and how did that go? Because that's what I want to ask. Because how was
Yes.
season 6 and how was JL Bond? Again?
Okay, so JR and I texted each other, and he found out that I was directing the 100. Oh no, I found out he was going to be on the 100, and so I was like, I'm going to be directing it. Oh my God. And it was remarkable. It was wonderful. He's a wonderful actor. He really is, and he plays this really very intense and interesting character. And the episode that I did had a lot going on in it, and he was remarkable. It was great. We had these moments, you know, at one point, we were trying to get to this moment in this scene, and I started to cry, you know, just talking, like directing him, I was crying. I was like, I shouldn't probably be crying while I'm giving you direction. It was wonderful. It was great. It was so lovely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Guys, I was just going to say we're almost out of time, and I've pushed it another 5 minutes already because we're all enjoying ourselves. I'm going to have one last question, if that's okay.
Better be good, no
Yeah,
pressure.
better be good. No pressure now.
Not gonna end well. Hi, Claire.
I'll be gentle with this. If you could have done an Invisible Jack scene and direct Rick in it, what would you have directed him doing?
Yeah. Remember when you were invisible and you have Jack do?
Well,
Rick?
first of all, you realize the absurdity of that scene where I'm walking down the hall. Well, part of the reason he was invisible, I'm not quite sure how this worked out, but so they could use a different actor and I would just voice it over because I like commuting and disappearing and turning 70. But I love green screen and I love, you know, being invisible. So I wore the green outfit and did the dialogue. It doesn't sound twisted to you, but at the time, and technically it was absurd. But anyway, Invisible Jack. Take it away, Amanda.
No, what would you have Invisible Jack do? You could do anything.
Oh,
No pressure.
I thought it was, you were asking her, right? Yeah, see? How would you know?
I was hoping that we could segue out of
And I
that.
almost fell for it.
Oh, Claire, come on.
Let's see how,
Obviously, what I would have. Yeah, there's children present.
but
Yeah,
invisible?
yeah.
I don't want angles from... I just broke out into a sweat myself. I would watch that.
These lights just got a lot hotter, didn't they?
MacGyver crawling all over you and you having to respond.
Not the hair. No.
What, no mullet?
We call it hockey here in Canada.
Yes,
Sticks out.
yes, you do.
There.
That's C-L-A-R-E, correct? Yeah. See it? Huh? Don't.
I can't even. Use your imagination. Enjoy yourselves.